This is lesson A1, radicals and rational exponents. First is finding principal roots. So the square root of 9 over the square root of 16 is equal to 3 over 4, because 3 squared over 4 squared equals 9 over 16. 8 to the 2/3 is the same thing as the cube root of 8 squared, which is equal to 4. 4 to the 3/2 is the same thing as the square root of 4 cubed, which is equal to 8. And if we have the square root of the cube root of 7, we can just multiply those two roots together to get the sixth root of 7, which is the same thing as 7 to the 1/6. Removing factors from radicands. If we have the square root of 90 times x cubed, we can take out the square root of 9 times the square root of 10 times the square root of x squared times the square root of x. So we can simplify that into 3 times the square root of 10 times x times the square root of x, and combine that further into 3x times the square root of 10x. And now we have the cube root of 16 times x to the 6th. So we can take out the cube root of 8 and multiply that by the cube root of 2, and then we have the cube root of x to the 6th. The cube root of 8 is going to be 2, and the cube root of x to the 6th is going to be x squared. And since we cannot multiply the cube root of 2, we just put that on the end and are left with 2 times x squared times the cube root of 2. Next, we have to know how to rationalize the denominator. So the square root of 2/3 cannot be simplified any further, so we have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying both the top and the bottom times the square root of 3, which is, so the square root of 3 over the square root of 3 is equal to 1, so we're not actually changing the values of the numbers. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just equal to 3, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is equal to the square root of 6, because both the 2 and the 3 are underneath square root signs. To rationalize the denominator here, multiply both the top and the bottom by the 5th root of y squared. Oh, that's wrong. So that will give you the 5th root of x squared times y squared over the 5th root of y to the 5th. So that simplifies out to the 5th root of x squared times y squared over just y. With rational exponents, if you have x to the 1/2 power, that's going to be the same thing as the square root of x. X to the 3/2 is the same thing as the square root of x to the 3rd power. So whatever value is in the denominator of the power is going to be the root value, and then whatever is in the numerator is just going to be the power underneath the square root. So a little bit harder one, x to the negative 4/6 is going to be 1 over the 6th root of x to the 4th. Now we have converting radicals to exponents. So the square root of x plus y cubed is the same thing as x plus y to the 3/2 power. And if we have 3x times the 5th root of x squared, that will be 3x times x to the power of 2/5, which is equal to 3x to the 7/5. Now we're converting exponentials to radicals. So in our example, we have x to the power 2/3 times y to the power 1/3. So that is like having x squared times y to the 1/3. And the 1/3 power is the same thing as the cube root of x squared times y. Next we have simplifying exponential expressions. So if we have x squared times y to the 9th to the 1/3 power times xy squared, we can distribute the 1/3, and so when we distribute the 1/3, we're just adding the exponents, so that will be x to the 2/3 times y cubed, because if you add that together, that will be 9/3, which is just 3. Put back xy squared on the end, and now combine both x's and both y's, adding the exponents because it's like multiplying the x's and the y's together. So it's going to be x to the 5/3 times y to the 5th. The last example is combining radicals. So if we have the 4th root of 16x over 5 plus 3 times the 4th root of x over 5, first we need to simplify. So the 4th root of 16 is going to be 2. So take 2 out, and then you just have the 4th root of x over 5 plus, nothing comes out of 3 or 4th roots of x, so just leave that like it is. And then combine like terms. So we say inside kids play with inside kids and outside kids play with outside kids. So combine the terms on the outside. So 2 and 3. Just add those together, which is going to be 5. And then the inside kids would just be the 4th root of x. And that stays the same over 5. The 5's are going to cancel, so then we're just left with the 4th root of x.